FNaF's Ticket to Fun Ephemera kit is now out, a brand new book in the series that I literally had no idea what to expect from. Its description describes so many different hidden secrets and fun Easter eggs, yet it's only 16 pages long and $37, so I had literally no idea how this book would work. But now I've read it, and there's some interesting stuff that I noticed in this book, and in this video I'm going to go over everything that I did notice. I'll discuss any and all secrets that I find, interesting things I notice, and any theories that I have about what this book is trying to tell us. So without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. There's two small surface level things I want to mention before anything else, and that is the cover and the page design. The cover shows the Core 4 staring down as a security guard walks down the hallway. If you look closely, you can also see that the guard is wearing purple, possibly a reference to either Michael as the FNaF 1 player, or it could be a reference to Afton, who was a security guard prior to Jeremy in FNaF 2. You can also see that Foxy here is actually missing the damage to his shell that we normally see on him in FNaF 1. This is consistent throughout the book. His damage is just not there, minus the endoskeleton hand. On the Pirate Cove page, this goes one step further, completely removing Foxy's brown shorts. In other words, he's naked. This same image of Foxy is used in other features of the book, though his lower half isn't visible in the poster. As for the page design, it is identical to the Survival logbook with browned, rotten, and old-looking pages. This makes me really wonder whether this is an in-universe kit or just an out-of-universe activity book. The logbook was an in-universe book, and this book seems to be connected to the logbook. Based on the page design, the fact that both are Fazbear teaching us how to be a guard, both have faded secrets on some pages, and both have word puzzles with secrets, it really seems like there is a connection, but we also get a lot of stuff in this book that says Five Nights at Freddy's on it. I think everything that doesn't is probably an in-universe thing, or at least the actual pages are, but other than that, I doubt it. Number 2. As soon as we open up the book, we are presented with this image of Withered Freddy standing in the pizzeria. However, behind him, there's this piece of paper taped to the wall. There's some text on it, though it's intentionally illegible. Underneath the text, though, there is this drawing. It's a bit hard to make out, but it's some type of building burning down, with 3 stick figures laying down surrounding it. I don't really know how to interpret this. There's 6 instances of locations burning down throughout the series. There's FNaF 3, FNaF 6, the fire ending from Security Breach, the parachute ending in Secret of the Mimic, the Fall Fest fire, and the Immortal and the Restless, but none of these seem to match this. There are 3 quote-unquote living characters in FNaF 3, Springtrap the puppet and the protagonist, who is probably Mike, but none of them die in the fire. In FNaF 6, Molten Freddy, Lefty, Afton, Scrap Baby, Mike, and Henry all die in the fire, and that's more than 3, so that doesn't seem to match either. In the Security Breach fire ending, Vanessa and Freddy die, which is only 2, so that doesn't match either. The parachute ending in Secret of the Mimic doesn't see anyone die. The Fall Fest fire killed Fiona and could have easily killed more, but this seems more like a single building rather than an entire carnival. And finally, the Immortal and the Restless does have 3 characters, those being Vlad, Clara, and the baby, but none of them die in or even get caught in that fire. So I don't really have a solid answer for what this might mean. Maybe it's just referencing that everyone that was in the FNaF 3 fire did die at some point, but outside of that specific fire, which is why they're outside the burning building in the drawing. Or maybe it's meant to reference 3 spirits, Cassidy, Old Man Consequences, and the puppet, resting as Afton is burning for eternity in Ultimate Custom Night. Or not. I don't really know. But this also isn't the only instance of dead people in this book, but I'll get to that later. Number 3. Now, I'd like to talk about the additional things we get in the book. First, Jeremy's paycheck from FNaF 2. It's a 1-to-1 recreation of that paycheck printed out just for us. We're also given 3 arcade tickets with Toy Freddy's face on them, along with some consecutive 6-digit numbers that I currently haven't found any importance in. One of the coolest things we get is an actual Freddy Fazbear's Pizza security badge, specifically one with Toy Freddy on it. This all seemed to point towards something interesting with Jeremy Fitzgerald as we get his paycheck and his badge. Yet another thing we get is the FNaF 1 newspaper. We get a crossword, which I'll talk a bit more about later, recipes for Fazbear pizza sauce, pizza, and the Happiest Day birthday cake. Also a red Fazbear wristband, and those pieces of artwork I mentioned earlier, including this little image of the Core 4, and finally a new and improved version of the FNaF 1 Celebrate poster. This one including Foxy and utilizing artwork rather than the objective designs. But there's actually one other thing I neglected to mention, the most important part of the entire book. The book comes with a tiny UV flashlight, which you can use throughout the book to find little hidden secrets. The first of these can be found on the Celebrate poster. The flashlight actually reveals a giant image of Golden Freddy. You can see he has the same eyes, wires dangling over his eyes, as well as a missing ear. Similar images of the animatronics can be found on each of the actual pages of the book that include that character. The A Vision of Fun page has Freddy on it, and a hidden image of him in the same vein as the Golden Freddy one. On the Safety First page, there's one of Bonnie behind the image of Bonnie, and the same with Chica on the Best Place for Birthdays page, and Foxy on the Pirate Cove page. Number 4. From here on out, each point I bring up will be about each page of the book where I notice something. First, the Safety First page. I mentioned a few minutes ago that we get a lot of FNaF 2 stuff in this book. We get Jeremy Fitzgerald's paycheck, Toy Freddy tickets, and a Toy Freddy security badge which Jeremy would have used. As for why this is, I think this book might be an attempt to clarify who the victim of the Bite of 87 is. According to this book, Fazbear Entertainment isn't responsible for, quote, bites resulting from failure to wear your security badge. This might be implying Jeremy Fitzgerald was the 87 bite victim and he got bit while not wearing his badge. Number 5. On the Freddy, Chica, Bonnie, and Foxy page, it is stated that tampering with the animatronics is grounds for immediate dismissal, which makes sense. After all, Mike and Fritz, who if you ask me are probably the same person, both get fired for tampering with the animatronics. There's also an ending in the week before where Ralph doesn't screw Bonnie's head on properly, causing it to fall off during a performance and resulting in Ralph getting fired. This page also has hidden images of both Balloon Boy and the puppet, which you can see with the UV flashlight, which is odd considering this is the curtain of a stage show, and neither of these characters belong here, so there's no apparent reason for them to be here in the first place. Number 6. On the Pirate Cove page, it says this, quote, "We do recommend you remain at your post unless absolutely necessary, as any security guard found away from their desk during work hours will be terminated." End quote. This is a bit weird, considering Ralph in the week before constantly traverses the building. So all I'm wondering is, were those situations absolute necessities, or did the book writers just not communicate? I do think most of these situations would be considered necessary, considering the blood spill and the headless Bonnie and stuff like that are pretty substantial and would be a big problem when the restaurant opens the following morning. But I just wanted to bring it up just in case this confuses anyone else. Number 7. One of the more interesting pages in this book is the Party Wristbands page. As I mentioned before, we actually get a red Fazbear wristband with this book, and this book expands on them. The wristbands are specifically given to birthday party attendees as a souvenir and to easily track them down just in case. Sound familiar? Well, if it doesn't, maybe what we find on this page with the UV flashlight will jog your memory. It reveals Charlotte looking through the window from the FNaF 6 minigames, wearing her wristband. This image appearing on this page makes it clear that Charlotte's green wristband is one of the ones given for parties, meaning that on the day she died, Charlotte was attending a party. This does make sense since Freddy is giving out cake in the Take Cake minigame in FNaF 2. In the Silver Eyes trilogy, Charlotte actually does die at a party, though not a birthday party. She dies at a 1982 Halloween party. This can work in the games, as although it does say birthday party attendees get the wristbands, it also just says parties in general in other areas of the paragraph. However, the issue is that Charlotte very much seems to have died in 1983. In Help Wanted 2, 1983 is the code needed to get the puppet plush, implying a connection between the puppet and that year. So while she could have died at a Halloween party in the games, that doesn't necessarily have to be the case, since in the games it takes place in a different year entirely. Plus, no one is wearing a costume in the Take Cake or Security Puppet minigames. Also, like I said, Freddy is giving out cake, and while he could do that for Halloween, that seems much more like a birthday thing. The books, however, also tell us when Charlotte's birthday is, May 13th. In 1983, May 13th falls on a Friday the 13th, which doesn't really matter, but it is a creepy day. So what if this date was chosen to tell us that Charlotte actually died at her own birthday party in 1983, just like the bite victim did? This by no means has to be the case, but it actually lines up pretty well. The page is also talking specifically about Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, so while it's entirely possible for Fredbears to have the same wristbands, this may be implying Charlotte died at Freddy's instead. Number 8. Next up is the Activities for All page. This page shows the core force surrounding a 3-tier birthday cake with 3 candles on it, exactly like the cake in Happiest Day. Underneath each animatronic is a smaller, slightly more childish and ghostly version of each one, likely representative of the spirits, which you can see using the UV flashlight. Since it's the Happiest Day cake, it's probably meant to represent the spirits being in the Happiest Day party itself. Number 9. The next page to talk about is called A Word from One of Our Fans, where an 8-year-old kid named Timmy Douglas talks about how much he likes the Midnight Motorist game and the Chica arcade, which is mentioned in the Activities for All page. Using the UV flashlight, you can also find Midnight Motorist cars scattered around this page, and Timmy also basically says that Bonnie tried to lure him to a dark closet, though he obviously didn't realize what the intent was there. As for that Chica arcade, it's interesting to think about what it can be. It isn't Fruity Maze, since on the surface, without knowing what the lore is, it's actually not a Chica arcade at all, but there is one other Chica arcade that could actually make sense, Chica's Feeding Frenzy. Now, you might think that's a weird and random arcade to bring up since it doesn't seem to be a thing until Security Breach. However, the very next page, called All Work No Play, talks about how you can't play arcade games during your shift, and if the arcade machines do not turn off even after unplugged, you should stay in the office. This is a feature of Chica's Feeding Frenzy. In the Chica's Feeding Frenzy maintenance log in Security Breach, it is said that the arcade doesn't turn off even when unplugged. Connection? Maybe. Number 10. On the Armed and Dangerous page, the UV flashlight reveals a circle around the words "Save a Life," and it says "Not Yours" on it. It's similar to the logbook where Mike crosses things off and replaces them with something about how he's gonna die, like on the cover how he crosses off security and makes it survival. Speaking of death, the congratulations page also has 4 dead children on it. Not the usual 5 we're used to, but it's clear whoever is writing this knows about the animatronics being the dead kids. There's also references to how there will be a whole week of shifts, so theoretically it's possible we'll get more of these books, like one for each night since this one is only night 1, though I kinda doubt that. Also, the end of this page claims that we are a part of the Fazbear family, just like Jeremy's paycheck does. Number 11. The last thing I want to talk about is the crossword that came with this book. On the surface, it just seems like a fun crossword puzzle that you can do if you want, but if you use the UV flashlight on it, you will actually find that that is still true. I actually outlined and filled in all the questions and answers from the entire crossword, and there's really nothing special about it. The light just reveals some extra stuff, but there's like no hidden lore like I would have expected, at least none that I can see. There is one small word on the left, though, that isn't connected to any of the other questions, but that I could not for the life of me figure out. It looks like it ends either in NNING or NNINE, but I can't tell, so I want to enlist the help of all of you. What does this say? Can you make it out? Let me know. One last thing. The top right corner of the page, under the UV flashlight, says, "Name Mike Schmidt," implying Mike is the one writing and drawing all these notes and stuff throughout the entire book. So stuff like Mike saying "will die" is common between this book and the logbook, but since the UV hidden secrets aren't that important outside of this, I don't really know what the implication is, besides the fact that he knows how Charlotte died, and he has seen Balloon Boy and the puppet, meaning he has been to FNaF 2. He also has Jeremy's paycheck, and a FNaF 2 security badge, meaning it may be possible that Mike actually is Jeremy, but that would be weird considering he also seems much more likely to be Fritz Smith, so that doesn't make much sense unless he's actually both of them somehow. And it's also weird since, as I mentioned earlier, the book seems to imply Jeremy was the Bite of 87 victim. However, considering Mike writes in the crossword about the bite, maybe Mike himself actually was the victim of the Bite of 87. It would be kinda weird, but technically it is possible, somehow, maybe, I don't know. But that's everything I wanted to talk about for this video. Overall, the book was fine. Like, it was a super cool concept, but I feel like it's way too short and there's not enough lore or content here to elicit a $37 price tag. But maybe that's just me. Regardless, I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you did, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to. Let me know if there's anything in the book that I may have missed, and stay tuned for whatever I cover next. The next FNaF book, releasing in early December, is the FNaF Ultimate Guide version 2. As someone who, while a big fan of the book itself, found a lot wrong with the original Ultimate Guide book, I'm really excited to see what the new version covers, especially considering it apparently had like 200 pages worth of corrections, so I guess we'll see what happens with that. Like I did with the character encyclopedia, I'll probably do 2 separate videos on that book when it comes out. The first would be about any and all interesting lore information it provides, and the second will be covering all the errors or inconsistencies that I noticed in the book, and I'll be determining whether the book is reliable for theory crafting or if it's too flawed to be considered. But with all that being said, I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys!